You've been searching for the best way to generate passive income in your life and heard that real estate is a great way to do it. But you're tired of all the so-called gurus who are all talk and no substance. Get ready to celebrate because Kevin Buck has spent 14 years successfully making it happen. This is the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Now, here's Kevin Buck.
Hey guys, Kevin Buck here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income-producing real estate investments. Our guest for this week's show is long-distance real estate investment expert, Billy Keels. Now, in the last 17 years, Billy has had the opportunity to work in 86 countries, learn and fluently speak 5 languages, and has lived in 3 European countries. With this personal growth experience, he has also had the opportunity to develop professionally by leading multiple discipline teams and managing businesses up to $74 million in the application software sector. Billy has earned his stripes as a true problem solver, a skill he's carried into his new entrepreneurial life. Today, Billy is a long-distance real estate entrepreneur, problem solver, author, coach, public speaker, and mentor. And so, guys, in today's show, we're going to dive in and uncover the intimate details of Billy's business so that we can really better understand the strategies that he's used to build a highly successful U.S.-based real estate investment business while living overseas. But before we get on to the show with Billy, here's a quick word from our show sponsor, Sunrise Capital Investors. Hey guys, Kevin Buck here with Sunrise Capital Investors. As you are hopefully already well aware if you've been a listener for any period of time, my goal has always been to provide you with as much value as I possibly can through my 2 podcasts, Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow and the Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast. As our audience continues to grow, literally, we've been downloaded millions of times by folks in over 125 countries. I've had thousands of people reach out looking to get involved in our niche. And that's the phenomenal niche of mobile home park investing. For those that don't know, I've been a full-time real estate investor for nearly 20 years now, and I've personally invested in and have owned apartment complexes, various commercial properties, hundreds of single-family rentals, and I've interviewed some of the most successful investors in just about every other asset class, and I've arrived at this one very simple conclusion. Mobile home parks are hands down the best investment I've found to date. Why? They provide investors with the best risk-adjusted returns out of any other real estate sector that I've seen. Investing in real estate can get complicated, and I really want to simplify this process for you. If you're someone who wants to diversify away from the uncertainty of Wall Street and allocate a percentage of your real estate portfolio to mobile home parks, but maybe you don't have the time nor the inclination to personally locate good deals yourself, then our team will do it for you. At Sunrise Capital Investors, our team specializes in the acquisitions and management of undervalued and highly profitable mobile home parks. And we are now providing accredited investors with an opportunity to participate directly alongside our team in our up-and-coming deals. And let me say this, I believe that we are hands down the best in our space at sourcing highly profitable off-market deals. That's really what makes us unique in this niche and as investment managers. As stewards of your capital, we truly are aligned with our investors. We've structured our investment fund so that we as a company are incentivized in the same way the investor is, which is through the performance of the investment itself. In addition, we want to make sure that we not only make money for our investors, but that they understand how it's being made. That's why we provide our accredited partners with a private monthly podcast that walks them through the detailed updates on how their investment is performing. And we're very transparent, providing you with the good, the bad, and the ugly at times. And so if you'd like to learn more about the partnership opportunities with our team here at Sunrise, please go visit sunrisecapitalinvestors.com and click on the investors link to get signed up. It's absolutely free and you'll get placed on the priority list of when new opportunities come along. Also, feel free to call us at 833-CASH-FLOW without the O. Again, that's 833-CASH-FLOW without the O. And one of our investor relations team members will help you schedule an appointment to speak with one of our managing principals. If you have questions, go ahead and schedule a call and let's get on the phone and talk. And with that, guys, I like to leave with one last thought. From the time that I wake up in the morning till the time that I lay my head down the rest of the evening, my number one priority with everything I do, whether it be recording this podcast, working for our investors, helping each of you reach your investment goals, to providing a great experience to each of our residents who reside in our communities, is to add huge amounts of value to everyone that I come in contact with. Now, with that being said, I look forward to the opportunity of bringing value to you through Sunrise and through this podcast. Thank you for your time. Now, let's go ahead and get back to the show. All right, ladies and gents, it's my honor to welcome Billy Keels to the show. Billy, how you doing today, my friend?
Hey, Kevin, this is really a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, me too, man. So I know this has been a long time coming. We tried this before, Billy, and we had some technical difficulties, but we're back now. Third time's actually a charm. So
there you go. Third time's a charm.
We're here, and we're going to make some magic happen today for our listeners. So, Billy, if you would, take a few minutes, give a little bit more of your background, who you are, how you got into real estate, for those that don't know who you are, okay?
Okay, sure. Billy Keels. I'm another guy from the Midwest, from the Buckeye State of Ohio, and was fortunate enough, I guess, as I look back now, we moved around a lot as a kid. When I was a kid, we moved from Ohio to Colorado, from Colorado to Texas, and eventually came full circle back to Ohio. There, my parents separated, and Dad went to the East Coast, and Mom stayed with us. And then we finished through high school, and then afterwards went to college just in the southwest part of Ohio, Miami University, which was just kind of cool. It was a really awesome experience. And then afterwards, had the chance to work at probably one of the most unbelievable places, where I had a chance to work and travel throughout some 58 different countries. Now, keep in mind, I was traveling probably 25 to 28 days a month. I got to see so much of the world that I never, ever thought I would have a chance to see. And that was really amazing. And because I'd seen so many different things, afterwards, I didn't see myself going to this, like the normal quote unquote 9 to 5 and sitting in a cubicle all day, because I'd kind of seen so many different things. So I took a 1-year sabbatical. I moved to Paris. I got accepted there at a university. I was in France, and the idea was to learn 3 things. I wanted to learn French. I wanted to learn how to salsa dance, and a little bit more about wine. I don't know why I picked those things, but I needed some kind of objectives. And fortunately enough, I was able to accomplish those 3, but I didn't actually want to go back stateside. I wanted to go back and see my family and spend more time, but I was actually enjoying the experience. So really fortunate in that job that I had before. I was working with a number of people, started working in an IT company in the south of France. I was living there. I started doing a number of things, was promoted up through sales leadership, and then was given the opportunity to move to Italy. So I moved to Italy, not really speaking any Italian, and learning a lot on the job. And it was a really awesome experience. I stayed there for about 6 months, then went back to Spain. After that, met a beautiful Spanish woman along the way. And then really was kind of tired of going from one place to the other, visiting. So I ended up moving to Barcelona, where I've actually lived since 2005. And since then, I've also, we got married, have 2 kids, and just really enjoying life a lot. So I always tell people you have to be careful with those 1-year sabbaticals. Mine's turned into 17 years.
That's awesome, man. That's a real exciting story. I mean, such a variety, and it's in such a short period of time, right? Because you're still a young guy, man. You're still what, in your early 30s, right? Are you
right? Okay. That must be no. Early 40s.
Okay, you look really young, man. So keep doing what you're doing, right?
Thank you very much.
I think it's the wine, right? The wine has a lot of really good.
I was just getting ready to say it's the red wine, and I have to thank my parents a lot as well. They had a lot to do with it. I just try to do some maintenance.
Good DNA. Yep. That's awesome. Well, Billy, tell us a little bit more about your dive into real estate, or I guess your introduction to real estate. Because that's obviously there was a turning point at some period of time where you decided that maybe traditional investments weren't really working for you, and so you sought out some education on the real estate side. And so tell us a little bit more about that defining moment in your life.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of happened along the way, Kevin. When I think about it, I'd always done what I was taught, right? It is to go to school and like most people say, you go in, you study hard, you get good grades, you get the right job, and you go out and you invest, and you do your investing was actually just putting money with some other place. And I was doing that. I was earning, salaries. I was traveling a lot, and my 401k I thought it was growing. And then 2000 hit, and it was almost like this kind of sock in the gut. But then they said, well, just hold it, wait a while, it'll come back. And so it did start coming back. And then around 2008, my portfolio lost about 35%, something like that. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I don't want to go through this again. Like, I don't want to completely be dependent on somebody else for the things that I normally should be able to control, which was my investments. So just fortunately, I was at my dad's house, and they had this little purple book that was there that my stepmom had, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? So many people have been influenced by this book. I picked it up, and I read just a couple pages, and I remember putting it back on the shelf. And then I flew back to Europe, and I didn't do anything with that. And then I flew back again, probably a couple months later or the next year, picked it up and actually brought it to Europe with me, read it end to end, and started realizing like, wow, this seems easy enough. Like, and I can have more control and be able to use a new asset class to get me closer to my financial goals. And so that's where it started with real estate, was through this just negative experience with paper assets that I couldn't control and feeling like I was completely lost. And so after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and wanting to put that into practice in Europe, I found what I read in the book, that it was difficult to translate because the type of market that most of the major European cities are like. And then I wanted to buy parking spaces. That didn't work. And then someone had the idea of, well, Billy, you're a U.S. citizen. Haven't you thought about actually buying property in the U.S.? And so from there, it's kind of built. But it started out of some frustration.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good deal. So, the one thing that I admire the most is the fact that you got comfortable with buying not just out of state, but out of country, right? Completely different country, thousands upon thousands of miles away. I mean, a lot of people that get started in real estate, they literally have trepidation about buying something in their backyard, let alone in another state, let alone in another country. And so help us better understand how you got comfortable with thinking of investing your hard-earned money into, I mean, the U.S., you're familiar with it, right? But it's your homeland, but you're tens of thousands of miles away. And so how'd you get comfortable with that?
Kevin, in the beginning, I don't know if I was completely comfortable. I guess if I have to, just telling the truth, I don't know if I really was comfortable in the beginning. And one of the things that you just said is so critical, because I think a lot of times, just like you and a lot of other people, I had saved a lot of my money, and it was my money, right? When I bought the first property, it was me and the bank. So I didn't know how to use leverage and use that responsibly, but it was the money that I'd been saving and stuff like that. So it was a bit, I guess it was kind of scary because I couldn't blame anybody else at this point in time. It was really on me and the education that I'd done. Now, one of the things that I did do, I didn't just jump right into it, right? Because I started reading books, and I would then start to reach out to people. Now, in my normal circle or the circle that I grew up around, nobody was involved in real estate. I mean, I just didn't know, or at least I didn't know at that point in time how to find out who was involved in real estate. Because now when I talk about it, I find out so many more people, one way or the other, are involved in it. So getting educated as much as I could, being able to reach out to the few people that I knew. For instance, I didn't know much about the financing aspect, and that was a weak point for me. So we had a relationship within our family of someone who worked at a bank. So I was able to reach out, making phone calls. Hey, listen, can you talk to me about the different types of loans that are available? Like, I didn't know the difference between a fixed rate or a variable, or any of that kind of stuff. And it was really just spending time asking a lot of questions, just so that I started to feel comfortable with some of the concepts. And then when I bought the first property, like I said, I don't know that I was 100% comfortable, but I knew that it was written down. Like, it was one of my goals. So it was something that I didn't want to let myself down. And it was something that I just had to try it. I mean, I've always tried things, and if it works, they work, and I keep more of it. If it doesn't work, well, guess what? I learned something. So that's
worst case scenario, you just lose some money, right? What's money? It can be replaced. I'm dead serious. I giggle about that, but I mean, worst case scenario, you're not losing limbs. You're not, unless you borrowed a mob dealer or something like that, right?
Right. Wasn't the case.
Yeah, worst case scenario, it's really not that bad. I mean, it's bad, but it's not life threatening. And so, there's one valuable lesson I've learned along the way, Billy, about investing long distance. And my long distance is completely different than your long distance, right? My long distance is hundreds or thousands of miles throughout the U.S. But even then, it's not an easy drive. I mean, literally, our closest drive to one of our properties is 3.5, nearly 4 hours away. The next one after that is an 8-hour drive. And then after that, it turns into 10, 12-hour plus drives, which that's, to me, that just doesn't happen. I don't really enjoy really long drives like that, and it's a waste of a day. And so normally it's an airplane ride, which the same really holds true with you or for anyone else that's investing either out of state or out of country. It's really a matter of just an airplane ride. And so the one valuable lesson that I've learned of owning these properties so far away is it eliminates the feeling or the need that you might feel for wanting to be present. Having your own presence at that property, thinking that you're going to make a big difference. And it forces you to be incredibly resourceful and rely on other folks, other professionals that might be much more talented than you are, that should, their presence should be at the property, not yours. I mean, for example, I know a lot of people, they get, they present this to me, this fear of buying out of area because they're like, what if something happens? I mean, what if there's a fire? What if there's a murder? I mean, anything like that's a big deal, right? Those are things that you get calls in the middle of the night for. And, I say back to them, okay, what if that does happen? I mean, what are you going to do? What would you do if there's a fire at your apartment? Right. Mobile home park. Are you going to get a garden hose? You think you're going to make a difference? Probably not. You're going to call 911, the fire department, and have them dispatch, fire trucks out there to put out the blaze. Right. They're going to dispatch an ambulance to get out. What are you going to do other than add to the, to the insanity that's happening there at that point in time? And so it forces you to be resourceful. It forces you to rely on other professionals that are better suited, better fit to deal with those situations. So with that being said, I enjoy leveraging technology to see our properties. Some people say, how often are you visiting them? Well, we try to visit them once a quarter. Sometimes it goes longer than that. But we visit our properties, every single one of them, in a virtual format way more often than that, typically once a month, by giving our managers GoPro cameras. Every manager in our communities has a GoPro camera with a suction cup mount, each one of them on a vehicle, and they slap it on the hood and they drive around the community once a month and they upload it in the Dropbox. Another source of technology and leverage. We can get a firsthand perspective of the condition of the community and any potential issues that are occurring there without having to even jump on an airplane. So with that being said, I didn't want to turn that into a long-winded lesson, but in any event, there's a lot of value that I've found with investing long distance. So, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, because I just have to say something, because it was one of the things that happened in the beginning was I was afraid of the distance. It literally scared me, and when I started, I was trying to manage it from Barcelona, me. And so what I realized that one of my biggest fears has actually turned into one of my biggest advantages. Yeah. Because I have never been able to go to the property. It just, the economics of me flying to a property to see it, it didn't work. And I didn't realize
the profits are gone after you drop it.
Exactly. So they're completely gone, not just for this year, but for a couple of years, right? Yeah. Because in the beginning it was just the first property. So one of the things, I mean, you make me have these thoughts again, and I'm thinking, wow, because it really was that disadvantage or being geographically displaced has really helped me think about process more than presence, like me physically being present at the property. And I'm just thinking to myself, the questions you were asking, if there was a fire, if there was this, if there was that. And I would say, and so what are you going to be able to do about it? You need to make sure that you have the right people and the right processes in place so that things get taken care of. So I guess I've learned a lot because I am so far away, because I've focused on other things, like making sure that we're at the right location and making sure that we have the right team that understands our residents and stuff like that. So yeah, what you just said completely resonates with me. And it was one of the things that turned from what I thought was a disadvantage to one of my biggest advantages, I would say.
Well, let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about the team that you built, because that's really been what's allowed you to comfortably, purchase properties in the U.S. while you are thousands of miles away. So how does one even go about, or how did you go about finding those team members and getting them excited about this opportunity, being that they never really had the opportunity to even meet you in person, right? I mean, I'm assuming all your hiring and all your partnerships have been done via probably Skype or Zoom, right? In a virtual type format. And so give me a little understanding of what that looked like, how you even went about building this team.
Yeah. So let me say this as well, because I don't know if we talked about it, but I think it's important for others just to realize, because I want people to realize that it is, I work a full-time job, right? I have a full-time job. It's extremely demanding. It's one of these types of jobs where it's a multiple six-figure salary type of job. So we have to be there constantly on the clock, all kinds of crazy hours. And even in spite of that, I've realized that there's something that fills me even more than that job, right? And part of it is because I get to use a lot of the same skill sets that I've used in sales leaderships in a corporate function to actually build my own team. Mm-hmm. So that makes it pretty exciting, because I also start to see that there are these transferable skill sets that you can use to actually build and set the right environment and motivate. So I think that's another thing, because sometimes I've heard people say, well, I couldn't do this because I have a full-time job. Well, so do I. And it's still possible. You just have to get started.
There's never enough excuses that one can give of why they shouldn't be doing this or something, right? It's something, if they really have that big of a desire to make a change in their life. I mean, you mentioned you work a lot of long hours. You've got a very demanding schedule. Not only that, you've got a wife and children. I mean, for those that are listening that have children, you understand where I'm coming from. I got 2 young kids myself. I mean, that alone with family, is demanding in and of itself. I mean, in a very big way. That's its own, that's 2 full-time jobs, right?
Yeah.
And then stack your current full-time job on top of that, and then still trying to find the time to get involved in real estate. And but you did it, right? I mean, you figured out. And in addition to that, you could have had the excuse of, the time changed different. And there's so many factors involved with where you're at, where you're based out of, and where you're investing. The time difference is a huge factor. You got to be up working late just to get on the same time as, what time is it? It's a 6-hour difference, correct? From
exactly. Yeah, it's a 6-hour difference. 6 hours. Yeah. So I'm 6 hours ahead of you. Exactly.
Yeah. So right now you're probably interrupting a little bit of, I know you're out in the field today, but if you were home, you'd be interrupting a little bit of family time, right? There's sacrifices.
Exactly. It's like this is high family time right now, if I were back at home. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
So those are sacrifices that I'm willing to make and wanted to make, because we're doing it for a bigger reason. And coming back to your question, so how have we started building a team? And I guess it hasn't happened overnight. There's still things that we're improving on, Kevin, because like I said, right now I'm still running really fast during the day, and we're building in the evening. And now also have my wife has dedicated her time to making sure that a lot of things are happening. And so that's what she's doing now. She's not working at her other job anymore. So that's part of the family, which is also very cool.
Yeah.
But so in the beginning, I started realizing where I was making a lot of the mistakes, or where I needed help. And so that's where I started looking to get help, right? And after we had the lawyer on board, and the title company, and the agent at the time, because I didn't know about the agent and broker relationship, and so that's all been part of the learning process. I realized that property management was not something that I was able to do. I could figure out problems and get it done, but it wasn't scalable at all. Mm-hmm. And so when I realized that was the problem, then I had to, just like I would do any other time, or I've learned to do, is there's a problem. So how do we go out and we fix it? In the beginning, was I doing it in the right way? No, not at all. I guess this is, after you've made enough mistakes, you figure it out. But in the beginning, I was, understanding if someone knew the specific area, and if they knew the area and then they could talk the game, then that was enough for me. And then I guess you realize you need to start scratching a little bit more around, scratching more of the surface to really understand, does this property management company understand not only the location, but do they understand the tenant? Because someone who's well, just use the ABC kind of theory, right? If someone's in an A class, if the property management only knows how to manage C class, then you could probably have a problem if you owned A class and that property management was managing your property. So I realized that I had to be much more detailed in terms of the way that I vetted the property management companies. And as a result, now we're at a point, after having failed a number of times, we have property management companies that understand us, understand the location, understand the tenant base, and things are moving in the way that they should be moving, which means that we're able to get the reports, whether they be biweekly or monthly. And I have checkpoints as frequently as once a week. So it just helps us to stay on top of things. And you talk about leveraging technology, definitely have used Skype, used Zoom a lot, picked up the phone, and I actually spend a lot of time now vetting property management companies. And then once it makes enough sense, Kevin, like I have to make investment to get on a plane and go and sit down and meet with the property management companies, even though it's thousands of miles away, even it's this, it's that, because the relationship is that important to me, to my tenants, and now to even people that are investing with us. So yeah, you've got to go beyond just the technology and eventually get down and shake hands and look people in the eye. So
how often do you speak with your property managers, the ones that are that are working for you now, that are managing your properties today? How often do you have check-ins with them? I mean, do you have a weekly or a monthly routine? And if so, maybe not just with the property management company, whoever else is on your team, can you give me an idea of what that looks like and how often you interact with them and by what means? Is it just telephone, or is it most of the time like via Skype or Zoom? Give me an idea what that looks like.
So there's one part. So if I talk about the internal team, we have and this is basically and also looking at the back office as well as interacting with the property management companies. We have a call once a week, and it's a Zoom-based call, right? Sometimes they're able to see each other, and sometimes if they're on the road, they just dial in. So that's every week. Then as it relates to the specific property management companies, I have a formal call like once every 2 weeks, but because where we are in the relationship, I mean, it wouldn't be unusual for me to speak to the company owners like once a week, just informally. Hey, listen, this is what's happening. Have you seen this news? Or they'll send me an article, and it's more of an informal 10, 15-minute conversation. But then there are formal checkpoints. And then, of course, whenever the rent rolls come through and the income and expenses at the end of the month, have a review of that as well. So it's a combination. But one of the things that I think is really important also, Kevin, because, and I guess, and I'm sure you do very similar, because when you are far away, especially when you're managing or when you're meeting property management companies, or you may be building out your team, there's lots of formal checkpoints, but it's important for me to make sure that they understand who Billy is, the person, not just Billy, the owner of the company, because that also goes into us being able to build a relationship and helps with the communication a lot.
Absolutely. No, I think that's incredibly important. And I mean, that goes to, you actually taking the time to actually fly there and meet in person when you know that you've got a good opportunity lined up with a new property management company or a partner, right? Actually getting a face-to-face.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Talk to me a little bit about market analysis and choosing the right markets from afar. I mean, what are you typically looking for as far as your market selection? I mean, what specific demographics? I mean, income, median household prices, unemployment rates, growth projections, all those kind of factors. Give me an idea of what you're looking at, and also what resources you utilize to study and research different markets here in the U.S.
Okay, cool. I'll definitely take you there. Can I tell you how I started doing that? How I started my market analysis?
Absolutely. A dartboard?
Where do I have family? Because in the event, remember what we were talking about earlier, I guess I wasn't ready because I was making my first property was based on when things go wrong, or if things go wrong, do I have a family member that can go there and kind of get
and get the garden hose and put out the fire? Right?
Exactly. Like that was how I started.
Yeah.
And then, you don't know. And so I bought a couple properties, another couple properties. And then I realized, well, maybe I should put some science behind this. And so I've gone from that to now actually looking at specific locations, right? And when we look at, there's a combination, right? There can be available data, and I started using a lot of that, like citydata.com. I don't know if you've used that or aggregated it, and you can look at like census.gov, which is information. But then I realized that I was spending so much time actually looking at, what is the unemployment rate, what is the mix of people, that I wanted to go to something where I could actually just buy the data that was already there and aggregate it for me. So I like to use Reese reports, which is data that you pay for, and it goes at the market and the sub-market level. But some of the things, like at a macro level, what do I like to look at? I particularly like for the multifamily space areas where there are 300,000 people or more. And it's more because of the ability to exit versus the ability to make the purchase. Afterwards, I like to look for unemployment, which is low, I guess below the national average. So I guess right now we're somewhere around 3-point-something%. So it's, I want to make sure that we're low there. I also like to look at net migration. That's something that's really important to me as a trend. So to make sure that there are actually more people moving into a specific city than moving out or state, if we start at the state level. I like to also look at things like at the macro level. What else do we like to look at? We like to look at I like to look at sports teams, see if there are sports teams in the specific area. That's something that's pretty good because they have a lot more. The big leagues have a lot more money than I do, so they probably put teams in a certain place for a certain reason. Also like to see universities, which universities are there. Of course, job diversification in terms of the different industries that are in a specific location, so we can try and avoid the trick pony sort of cities. And for those jobs, especially that are really difficult to outsource, as we look at the kind of key industries in any market. So those are the things at the macro level that help us figure out which location do we want to spend more time investing in.
Okay. Other than logistics of communicating with your team members and building the team and things of that nature, have you run into any other challenges by being out of the country? I mean, things like maybe financing, right? Financing challenges, dealing with a U.S. bank versus a bank abroad. I mean, how does that work when you basically have I don't know what your resident status is, but you've lived there. You've lived in Spain or Barcelona for how long? About 10 years?
Yeah, it's going on. So 2005, do 13 years. 13 years. Yeah, this July will be 13 years. So, man, financing is complete headache, man. Complete headache.
Do you hold a dual residence, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I am a U.S. citizen with Spanish residency.
Okay.
So, which adds a lot of level of complication to things, but that doesn't matter because when it's big and the dream's big enough, you go through it anyway. So what that means for me is that because of the way that I file my taxes, which I file my taxes every year back in the States, because they need to know, Uncle Sam needs to know where you are, how much money you're earning, and see if he gets his portion or not. And so that's really important in terms of the citizenship. So the citizenship overrules everything else. The residency being here in Spain, it doesn't cause a problem for me. Initially it did, because they were like, well, you're living you're living overseas, and how does that work? But now that I've been through it so many times, like we've stumbled and fallen so many times, before we even get started with if I were to go and work with a new financing partner or lending partner, I already know what to tell them from the very beginning, so that all the worries and concerns that they're going to come up with anyway, I just give it to them from the very beginning. I'm a U.S. citizen. I reside in Spain. My company is U.S. based. Therefore, we are able to, ask for a loan, or we're able to have lending. Most of what they care about is, can you verify that your income has been declared in the U.S.? That's the most important thing.
Got it. But so that would be okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, I'm thinking of like so many other variables there, but I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. So I want to talk about some of the up and coming deals you have working on. I know that we had talked a number of weeks ago, maybe it's been a little over a month now, and you're working on some larger multifamily acquisitions. And the first question I have for you is, at what point in time did you deem that it was a good idea to make the move from single family, which I know where you started, which is where most of us start, to larger multifamily properties? I mean, give me an idea when that turning point was.
Yeah. So, and I guess for me, so I started, I guess I had the very first property was a duplex. So I guess in a sort of kind of roundabout way, I've only purchased multifamily, but they were just for really small multifamily, I guess that way. But then it kind of has gone up since then. Um, I guess when I start, for me, it came to a certain point where is this something I want to keep doing and dedicate time to, or is this just going to be a side income that doesn't keep me frustrated like the stock market did? Mm-hmm. And when I realized that I could actually go out through my company and affect lives, right? And by being able to affect lives, I'm specifically talking about people that have now begun to invest with us, which I never, ever, ever thought, because that was never on the radar, to also realizing like being able to spend more time and energy would allow me to actually get closer to a personal goal and dream, which is to be able to live between the US and Spain. Because like most people, you know, my parents are getting older. I've missed a lot by living in Europe for so many years. And it's not a matter of not having the finances to travel to the States more frequently. I don't have the time, because even though I'm very, very fortunate in Europe, I have 5 weeks of vacation, which is awesome. I'd like to be able to do it, you know, on my time. And that's kind of I guess that's been that when I realized that that's something that is more important to me than just to continue to have the multiple 6-figure come through. That was when the switch happened. Like that was, okay, now I've got to work even harder. And by working harder, if I'm going to do the same amount of work, why don't we do this to something that's going to be able to scale even larger, and also be able to, by being able to scale larger, it just will help, you know, it helps the investors. It helps me to get towards my personal dream. It helps my family, things like that. So that was kind of the switch when I made the decision that this wasn't just about having a little side income to keep things going well.
And so with regards to your investors, I mean, now you're raising capital for some of these up and coming deals. Is it mostly US based investors, or are you also finding investors abroad? And then again, lots of other factors involved there with raising capital, right?
Huge lines. Huge. Yeah. So, and this is where also, because it's really, it can be delicate. So one of the things that once I realized, because a lot of the interest started from the European based investors, because they're friends of mine that were around me, and I'm telling them about this crazy idea of buying property back in the US. And so they watched me for the first 2 years. They watched their crazy friend buy these properties all over the place, and they were seeing what was happening, and I was buying more. And the really close friends, I mean, some of them were even asking me some really personal, like financial questions that I wasn't comfortable with and stuff like that. And they were like, "Whoa, Billy, this is crazy, man. Could I invest with you?" And I was like, "No way. No, not even close. I'm not mixing friends and money. That's a big no-no. Not going to do that. Not going to do that." And then the second friend asked me about a month later, and I said, "Not going to do that. No way." And then a third friend asked me, and this was probably in about a 4 or 5 month span. And I thought, well, hang on a second. Maybe these guys see something that I don't even see the opportunity. And when I realized that there was an opportunity because my friends were smarter than me to actually see it, then I knew that I had to go out and get the right team. So I spent a lot of money in the beginning with legal teams, tax teams in Europe, and also with tax teams and legal teams back in the US. I remember one day there was like the 4 teams were on the phone with each other, and I was like, how much is this costing me? Oh my gosh, how much is
$1,600 an hour?
It was just crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But the thing is, I can sleep well at night. Like now, so yes, it costs a lot up front. But I sleep very, very well at night. And today we have investors that are in Europe. We have investors that are in the United States, and we have investors that are in Latin America. So
so the answer is get professionals involved, right?
Yeah. I mean, look,
don't try to figure it out yourself, and make sure that you're abiding by all the rules and laws of whatever country or state. Please do. Yeah, because if not, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. I mean, get the right people, get the right. You have to have the right tax teams, the right legal teams. You can get into so much trouble yourself, and if you start dealing with other people's money,
it's a bad situation. Do not do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to switch gears and I want to do a 180 here. And I want to flip it from business to personal and family life. And I want to hear from your perspective. I know that your family is incredibly important to you, your children, your wife, and you're working your butt off really with the idea that you can spend more time with them, right? And you'll buy more time in the future with them. So talk to me about how you manage that life work balance. I mean, we've been talking about hustling this entire show, right? I mean, you're traveling right now, literally as you record this, like you're on the road. How do you manage? I mean, give me some of Billy Keels' tips and strategies on how to manage that work-life balance to ensure that you're not missing those important moments today. Even though you're out there hustling, busting your butt, you're not missing those important moments with your wife and with your children, and that you're also able to put as much of an emphasis on them and cherish those special moments as you are with this business that you're building.
Yeah. So in that regard, family is super important. Yeah, as you said, I mean, because I got that from my parents, and fortunate enough to have a wonderful, loving wife and two boys that drive us both crazy. But they're little boys. They're 7 and 8, like me and my little brother.
Yeah.
The same age. So it's a lot of fun. At the same time, yeah, I mean, they're really, really long days. But the family calendar, and this is something we didn't do well in the beginning, because in the beginning, my wife was working in another company. I was working, our boys were young. And then, I had my calendar, she had her calendar. And eventually, she was kind of like, hang on a second, we know you want to be at these certain places. And I remember one day when my youngest son, or my oldest son, he was turning 2, and it was his birthday, and I had to catch a flight from Barcelona to Germany on his second birthday. And I was like, or third birthday. And I thought, no, this doesn't work. Like, I don't want to be I got to see him. So that was cool and fun. But I just remember like being sad in Germany. Like, well, this is my son's birthday. Like this kind of sucks, right? This is not very cool. So in order to minimize those kinds of things happening, we plan out. And especially my wife is really, really great about making sure that the things that are happening with her and the boys, that it's in the calendar. And she's also great about making sure, hey, Billy, you did see that this is in the calendar. Now, I'd love to say that it happens every single time that I'm able to make everything, but that's not the reality, right? But what I do is make sure that the things that are the most important, the things that I can actually control, whether I take a trip or I don't take a trip, that family comes first to me. Yeah. And I'm really clear on that, even at my company. Or the company that I work for, they understand that. They realize that I continue to produce, so it's not an issue. There are times though, Kevin, when it can't be avoided. Like I have to be in a certain place at a certain time, and I'll miss, like for instance, last week, my oldest, he had a basketball game, and it just so happened that it was 4:00 in the afternoon. I had to be at a meeting in Madrid. So I explained to but when that happens is I explain to my son and I say, look, I need you to do me a favor. Make sure somebody gets a video, and you and Daddy are going to watch the video when you get back, I get back home. Right. So that I can at least participate in that way. In that way. So that's really important to me. And so I would say getting the calendar centralized, having a very supportive wife, and helping me to make sure that I understand the things that are really important to family.
How about you? How about you on a personal level? Tell me how you keep Billy in tip-top shape and running at such a fast speed. I mean, do you have any daily routines that you go through, and any habits, health habits that you attribute a lot of your own success to?
So I enjoy waking up early in the morning. 5:45 is early. Although I just read this book that I'd heard a lot about, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, which is actually pretty interesting, because I have some of the elements, but I don't actually have a specific process. But I like to get up in the morning. I like to do meditation. I typically do meditation anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes. That's a guided meditation, although over the last couple of days I've been trying just non-guided meditation, which is completely, it's new for me.
What's guided? I don't meditate. So what's guided versus non-guided meditation?
Yeah. So the guided is, there's an app that I've used, and that app, they basically talk you through what you should be doing, what you should be thinking about, making sure that you're breathing in and that you're breathing out, and that the breathing comes from the stomach and out through the nose, these kinds of things. So really just helping you versus you don't have anybody there. The non-guided is no one's helping you. You are just on your own, and you have to, clear the mind or think about your breathing in that way. So really the beginning of the morning is important for me to get my mind right and also to get exercise. I always make it a goal to have at least 3 days of cardio a week, first thing in the morning. Then I come back, I get my stretching in. Usually we'll go through things for the company. So I actually look at the inbox, or if there's certain activities that I want to make sure that the team knows about, I get those out in the morning. If there are any new leads that come in, I get a chance to take a look at those. Because I'm still at a point where I'm looking at all of the leads that come in. And then from that, my boys are usually start moving in the morning. And so I like to be around with them a bit. And then the days that I can, I like to take them to school. And the days that I'm traveling, well, of course, I can't take them to school. So I think it's about getting up early, spending some time with the meditation, and also making sure I get exercise in as well. So.
Got it. Very cool. Meditation's one thing that I've always considered. I've spoken to others that utilize that in their daily routine, but it's something I've never tried. So I have to ask you personally, have you noticed a difference? I mean, for however long, I don't know how long you've been doing it as part of your morning routine, but do you notice a difference in the overall clarity and energy that you have, throughout the day on those days that you start out with meditation versus the ones that you do not?
There's two things. One, it's the way that I start my day, I guess, is I notice it if I have, so I think at a certain point I'd gone like 390 some odd days of meditation. Like,
wow,
which was pretty amazing, or maybe 380. It was over a year. And then it kind of stopped. And then I realized that, wow, when I would start the day, it was different when I was meditating versus when I wasn't. And then the other thing is because I had that as just as something that I was doing, if I was having a really, really stressful day or stressful moment, I realized that it was okay for me to go to a room, to stop, because my mind was going 5 million miles an hour, and just to be able to bring it to a place where I could, even if it was just 5 minutes, just kind of slow things down again, just to reset during the day. So being able to, having gone through the exercise and doing that, it allowed me to have the reflex to stop when things just felt like they were getting completely out of control. Yeah. And it's something that I do now. So yeah, I guess in that way, it definitely makes a difference for me. Yeah. And I'm somebody, my mind goes 1 million miles an hour, man. So in the beginning, it was it was really, 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 really difficult. But now I'm used to it.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to ask you a question now, Bill. I want you to kind of step back in time a little bit. And I don't know the exact number of years that you've been practicing real estate now. It's a number of years. I mean, do you know the exact number? What was the year that you first bought that investment property?
So the very first year was 2013 was the duplex. Okay. And so I got to a certain point that I had too many properties, and then I stopped. And I basically took like a year and a half off. Okay. I started working with a mentor, invested money in myself because it was going too crazy. So there was about a year and a half that I wasn't really doing anything other than focusing on me and learning.
Okay. But 5 years though. So 5 years from the point you bought that first property. So if you can go back into time and give yourself some advice after knowing what you know today, what advice would that be? I mean, what would you tell Billy 5 years ago?
Billy, surround yourself with more people faster, and allow yourself to feel comfortable with buying more properties sooner.
Okay, good deal.
That's what I would tell myself. And I guess because I relate a lot of things, Kevin, to languages. So being born in the Midwest, I was born speaking English. And at 27 years old, I learned a second language in French. I would lived in Spain for like 3 months. But at 27, I started learning French. Then I had a chance to move to Italy. I started learning and perfecting Italian, and the same thing moving to Barcelona with Catalan the language. So having learned 4 languages really from 27 to date, I realized that the only reason that I can speak those other languages fluently, like in my day job, I only speak Spanish and Catalan. Like I don't speak English at all. Wow. And the only reason that I've done that is because I've made so many mistakes. And I guess it's the faster you make the mistakes, the faster you get to fluency. And it's one of the things that and I guess it's one of the reasons now that I realize it's okay to go after larger projects, because it's part of the process. And I was not buying more because I thought there was a lot of properties at the time. I just didn't have the right direction. I didn't have the right level of education, and I wasn't surrounded by the right people. And so that's what I would tell myself in a very simplified way, because once you surround yourself with the right people and buy sooner, you get the experience and you become fluent much faster.
I wholeheartedly agree, my friend. Well, fantastic, Billy. Well, you shared a lot of gold nuggets with us today. I mean, tons of great information. This has been an awesome talk. We're running up against the clock now, but what I'd like to do is enter in what we call the golden nugget segment. And if we could, I'd like to ask of you, if you had just one final golden nugget of advice or wisdom that you could leave with the listeners that may inspire and motivate them as they progress in their real estate investing career, what would that one last golden nugget be?
Wow, it's similar to what we just said, but it's get educated and start before you're ready.
Yeah, fair enough. I love it. And don't be afraid to pay for education either. This is one of those things that irks me a little bit. I love Bigger Pockets. I think it's a phenomenal form. There's a ton of great free information on there, and kudos to anyone that could basically go on there and then turn around and start buying investment property and do it successfully. There's plenty of people that I'm sure can, but if you're at the point to where you're stumbling along, you've been spending time on forums, you've been going to real estate investment groups, and you're not making any headway, there's still missing pieces of the puzzle. Don't ever be afraid to go out there and find, a paid mentor. And it doesn't have to be paid, maybe with, in terms of cash, but, it's going to be really challenging if you can't bring value to that person by means of either paying them cash or, helping grow their business. They're going to want to take time out of their busy day to help you. And so, but just know that spending money or giving back to then receive an education is definitely going to get you there way faster with much less mistakes. You're still going to make mistakes, but it's going to get you there a lot faster. And it's just don't ever get caught up in that mindset of do I have to pay for this? I'm not going to pay for it. You don't expect to go to a 4-year college or university or go get your MBA for free, unless you're incredibly smart, right? And you go on a full ride, but. That's a very small percentage of folks that attend traditional schools. So that's what I'll leave. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, because I haven't shared this before, but you are so spot on. And it's like I was talking about before. You can actually go out and spend your time trying to get all the data, or you can just have the data and actually spend the time on analyzing and making the decision. And there was a certain point where I one of the things that I did is I got a mentor. Like I paid a hefty, I guess, nice 5-digit kind of thing, but to have a one-on-one mentoring program.
Yeah.
And it scared me, because I was like, I'm the fool who's paying this ungodly amount of money to go and to do the things that everybody tells you not to do. But when I had, but two things. Number one, it's what I needed, because I need a high touch kind of program. Because I have lots of questions and I'm all over the place and need to have that, right? I needed a high touch. And also, when there were investor funds that were 8 times what I paid to have a one-on-one coaching that I never thought was even possible. I thought I was getting into the coaching because it was going to help me get my properties in order. But because it was the type of one-on-one coaching where they could actually see, well, what do you need? And let's focus on not just this part, but let's also focus on where we think you can get closer to your goal. There was an analysis that actually took place. And so then I think about it, and I was like, wow, you know what? I made 8 times that just in investors in a 7-month span. So if I had to do it again, I would do that all day, every day. And it scared me because I just looked at it as a cost.
Yep.
And it was very, very clearly in my mind an investment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And full disclosure to everyone listening, I have nothing to sell you. And so I make these comments, just based on purpose more than anything else. Like you just, any given year, I mean, this year alone, I'm a member of a few different masterminds. One of the masterminds costs me $20,000 a year to be a member of. It's quite expensive. Yeah. In any given year, I probably easily spend between $30,000 and $40,000 in education. This could be individual one-on-one mentoring sessions, 3-day boot camps, masterminds, many different things. But it's an investment. I mean, it like the mastermind, for example, that allowed me to exponentially grow my network in a very particular area of focus, and has introduced me to folks that have allowed us to grow our business by leaps and bounds over the past year. And that $20,000 was easily multiplied many times over again, just with a few folks that I met there that I wouldn't have had the ability to meet and get an intimate connection and friendship with otherwise. So
that's the mindset switch. Switch. Absolutely.
And it's incredibly challenging to write. Even now, even with getting that value, it's still challenging to write the $20,000 check at the end of every year. It just is. It's a big chunk of money, right? Place. And that doesn't factor in the travel costs associated with going to this meetup 4 times a year. It's very expensive. But in any event, it's well worth it. And the return, the ROI is huge. So, Billy, that's all we have today, my friend. I really appreciate you coming on the show and taking the time out of your busy travel schedule. I know you're on the road today, so you found some time to squeeze us in. I really appreciate that. And for folks that want to learn more about you and your company, what you guys have going on, the best place to visit you is at keeponcashflow.com, and that's KEEPON cashflow.com. Is that correct, Billy?
Yep, exactly. They can go there. They can check us out. Also, too, one of the things I'd like to do for listeners, Kevin, is to give them a chance, like long distance investing. Sometimes people don't want to go to the website, or they may just want to read through it. I had an ebook. They can go there. They can get it absolutely for free. If they go to growyourmoneythesmartway.com, and they can also check it out and just see kind of what we've been doing. So that's it.
Fantastic, Bill. I really appreciate that. And guys, I'll put that in the show notes for you so you can go download Billy's ebook. And Billy, that's all I have, my friend. Really appreciate you coming on. Wish you the best in all that you do, all your future endeavors, and we'll look forward to catching up again soon. You take care.
All right. Thanks so much, Kevin. I appreciate it. You do the same.
Congratulations! Now you've got more of the best tricks of the trade in building massive amounts of passive income from real estate. For more amazing resources, visit realestateinvestingforcashflow.com, and we'll see you next Monday morning.